Hello, I'm OTM Speaks. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. That would be very, very nice. Very kind of you to do. I'm on the road to 500 subs, trying to get there. See if I get monetized. That would be really, really cool. I start off every single live saying the exact same thing, and I think it's painfully obvious now as to why, but I'll say it anyway. I lean to the right. I do not like to mislead people. I don't want people to think that I'm neutral in any way, shape, or form because I'm not. I'm coming from a right wing perspective, but I do provide facts and that support what I believe and what I say. With that said, I've been gone for a minute. Wife went out of town. Our daughters took her on a trip for her birthday. It was pretty amazing. I stayed home with the boys, so I wasn't able to go live. But she had a blast, and that's all that matters. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to have raised girls to be able to do something like that, to take their mother out of the country for 4 or 5, 6 days, however long it was. How you doing, Miss Phoenix Rising? So, a lot has happened since I last went live, and today I want to talk about what Joe Biden is doing. I don't know if he even knows what's going on right now. It appears as if World War III is attempting to be started or provoked. I don't understand it. I don't like it, obviously. And I really, really, really am concerned with the responses on the right and on the left to what Biden is doing or what his handlers are doing or whoever's authorizing this stuff. Because it doesn't make sense to do it right now. It's really, really odd because he's on his way out. Trump's coming in less than 2 months, and he has a mandate. And what does Biden do? He authorizes um, weapon missile weapon systems to be used in Ukraine and fired into Russia, which is really, really odd. I don't understand the provoking. I don't understand it happening right now. So about 4 days ago, actually, no, it's been a week now. Ooh, I don't even know when it was. You know what? No, I'm sorry, it wasn't 4 days ago. It's been a while now. It's been like 6 or 7 days. Joe Biden authorized uh, Army Tactical Missile. I don't know what it's called. Let me pull it up. ATACMS, Army Tactical Missile Systems. Where's the C? I don't know what it's at with Army. It doesn't say what it is. Anyway, missiles. For some reason, Joe Biden thought it would be a good idea right now, like again, on his way out, to authorize Ukraine to fire American-made missiles, mid to long range missiles into Russia. They've been asking for the ability to do this since the war started. We've been saying no for obvious reasons. I don't know why we would authorize it now, but Ukraine, and now that they've had authorization, they fired at least 6 into Russia, and Putin is not happy about that, as you can imagine. I don't know why anyone would be happy. I don't think we would particularly be happy with a country firing missiles into Chicago or into Indiana or St. Louis. I think that's to not expect a horrible, horrible response is weird, and I don't. It's not realistic, to be honest with you. So they covered this on one of the Piers Morgan shows. I've been watching that a lot. They have really, really, really good debates. But I want to go over this video. It's going to start off with explaining exactly what happened, and I again, what is Joe Biden doing? Who are the people who are in charge? Because doing this right now, there's no rhyme or reason to this other than to provoke. And I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it, obviously. But let's start this off. Let me hit this. Why aren't you hitting? What are we doing here? There it is. All right. Of course, it's not going to let me do it right now. I don't know why it's not going to let me do it. My laptop just froze. Sorry. Let's get this going. Come on. Why now? Downloads. Why won't it highlight? I don't understand what's going on right now. Sorry, let me close this out. Force quit. My computer's not doing anything. It's not allowing me to do anything right now. I should have just uploaded it to StreamYard. That's the smart thing to do, but clearly I'm not that smart. Can we go? What is going on? Huh. I may disappear for 1 second, but I will be right back if I do. Let's see. This is odd. Very, very odd. If I disappear, I'll be right back. All right, now let's see if this works. Sorry about that. Present video file. What is going on? I don't know what's going on. There it is. There it is. All right, now we can get started.
On voters' minds, and many of them see the 60 billion that have gone to support you, and they say that's too much. You obviously feel differently. Why should those American voters care?
So if you don't know who this guy is, his name is Vladimir Zelensky. He is the president or prime minister or whatever they call their president of Ukraine. And I want you to hear his justification for us paying for their war. I found this to be fascinating because I don't agree with any of it. But there are people in the States who agree with this. And I want you to think about your tax dollars and your neighborhoods, or even neighborhoods that you maybe you're from these neighborhoods that aren't doing very well. I want you to think about those while he's talking about how important it is to fund his war.
First of all, I'm again thankful for bipartisan support to Americans. Yes, we understand that they pay money, but they pay money in the United States for such plants as I visited, for any plants, a lot of different companies, private companies, which produce a lot of ammunition, which is so needed for us. So this money, they put this money of Congress, they put this money to these plants, to these jobs of Americans, not for Ukrainians.
Should the American voters, though, care about what happens in Ukraine?
You have to know, already there are attacks not only on Ukraine, there are missiles and drones in Belarus, in Poland, in Baltic, in Romania. All of these, except Belarus, all of these countries are NATO countries.
Okay, so his reasoning so far is they need ammo and that these other countries around him are NATO allies. But that has nothing to do with Ukraine because Ukraine is not a NATO ally. So I found that interesting that he even brought that up. And it's something that I'm hearing a lot of United States Congress people saying also. And it's weird. We've heard Biden make this case as well. Very, very strange outlook.
And if they will attack, and not just in the sky, and not just attack some infrastructure, but if they will attack people, civilian infrastructure, and if there will be a lot of, God bless, not, but if a lot of losses, human losses, it will be the war, NATO and Russia.
But again, not Ukraine. So I still don't understand why he keeps bringing up NATO.
And that's why I think it's cheaper, frankly speaking, it's cheaper to support Ukraine. Because when I say cheaper, it's not about money. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's about people. Today, it's more cheaper and more smart to support Ukraine and to help Ukraine stop Putin and to prevail.
So he says it's cheaper to help Ukraine. I don't know what it's cheaper than. But we're pushing $250 billion that we sent to Ukraine. And I don't understand the argument that it's cheaper. But let's continue.
First time President Biden is allowing Ukraine to use long-range American missiles to strike targets deeper inside Russia.
Yeah, the stunning change of policy comes as Russia deploys thousands of North Korean troops along Ukraine's northern border. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Caputo has more on the potential impact that it could have on the war.
Just as Russia launched its third largest attack against Ukraine with more than 200 missiles and drones, the U.S. has responded. For the first time, President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use long-range U.S. missiles called ATACMS to strike Russia.
The significance of giving ATACMS to the Ukrainians is that it will allow them to hit deep behind Russian lines, to hit supply caches, to hit troop buildup areas, and hopefully blunt the attack on Ukrainian forces inside of Kursk.
Another major factor for President Biden's reversal on a long-standing limit on Ukraine's use of American weapons, the arrival of what U.S. officials say is 10,000 North Korean troops to fight alongside Russians. Allowing the Ukrainians to fire on targets inside Russia is something President Zelensky has repeatedly lobbied for, and tonight in his evening address to the nation, he said the missiles will speak for themselves. The weapons have a range of nearly 200 miles, and the Biden administration had feared lifting the restrictions would lead to an escalation by the Kremlin. USC International Relations professor Robert English believes that's exactly what will happen.
I anticipate that the Russians will escalate, but not against Europe, not against us. They'll take it out on the poor Ukrainians, and we will see even more massive strikes on civilian targets.
I don't understand what they thought would be the response. So NATO, including us, the United States, has been helping Ukraine since day one in this war. As soon as Russia says, you know what, we're going to have some people come over from North Korea to help us, we start dropping more weapons. It's almost as if they expect Putin to just sit there and take it from the whole world. We are funding a war against Russia, and then we act surprised when they respond. And so now, of course, it has to escalate. Well, they have more troops coming in. Yeah, so do we. So does Ukraine. None of us are supposed to be there. We're protecting their minerals. We're protecting their borders, ironically. The United States is protecting Ukraine borders. I need you to think about that for a second, because we have not protected our own borders in 4 years. So here we are, wondering why Putin went and got troops from another country to help him, when Ukraine went and got troops from several countries to help them. This is insanity. Yeah. I don't know how you supply a country against our allies. And it's really interesting because since the beginning of this war, I've made a lot of videos, like at least 10 videos on this war. I know all about what's going on there. What I don't understand is how we can chastise Putin for responding when we're not even supposed to be there. And the argument is, well, Ukraine is surrounded by our allies, so we attack him. And you're going to hear why he's doing what he's doing. It's really not unreasonable. I just find it fascinating that you see Congress people having no issue with spending $250 billion in Ukraine. No issue at all. And then they wonder why we got what's going on, G. Will? I cannot understand why the entire, I can understand They can't understand why the entire government was essentially swept with a broom and replaced. And they don't understand why people are sick of this nonsense. Because there's a lot of reasons why what happened on election night, but this is a major one. The economy here is not doing well, no matter what they try to tell you. So when we see Ukraine getting $250 billion from our country, we have to wonder why. What could the South Side, what could the whole city of Chicago do with $250 billion? Los Angeles, all these cities that are struggling, Memphis, St. Louis, Indiana, Gary, Indiana, like these places that have been struggling for a long time, even though they're blue, I would still rather spend the money here. I don't understand why we're acting surprised. This is wild to me.
Russia's most recent attack already doing just that, targeting power plants, but also hitting a residential building, killing several people, including children. Video circulating online showing the moment missiles struck the western city of Rivne. Professor English doesn't believe Biden's decision made in the final months of his presidency will win the war for Ukraine or lead to Russia using nuclear weapons, but he believes it'll get worse before it gets better.
So why would they be surprised when they start having bombs dropped on them when they launched 6 missiles first? Russia didn't even know they had these capabilities, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 they're getting hit with missiles. This is wild.
Our policy, the United States policy, was give them just enough to fight, but not enough to win, is exactly what got us into this position right now. Despite what's happened in the last week with President Biden and his team dumping more equipment in there, I don't think this is a winnable war. If you define winning by President Zelensky's old standard, which is retake and restore territorial integrity, take back Crimea, and make Russia pay for this war. If that's the definition of victory, there's not a chance that Zelensky can win this war.
So he wants to take back Crimea, which they lost a few years ago to Russia. Right before Trump got in office, Putin knew, okay, we'll take Crimea. And then when Trump gets out of office, they go in and now they're taking other parts along their sea. What's the sea? Sea of AV. I don't know the sea's name. Starts with A. But they're taking their territories, and it's always when Trump is out of office. I find that fascinating, and I know we know it's going to end when Trump gets back in. So you literally have dictators that are playing regimes against each other, saying, "Okay, well, we can't do it now, but we'll do it later." Why is this a surprise?
War. We must understand that Russia has as much paranoia about foreign forces creeping up to their borders as the United States does.
This is important.
The only difference is that we've had that doctrine, the Monroe Doctrine, since 1807, that we will not allow another country to encroach into our hemisphere. So I think it's reasonable concern that the Russians had that we would, NATO would put military forces in Ukraine. And that, unfortunately, gave a lot of heartburn and heartache and stomachache to Russia. Don't think they needed to attack, but it's unfortunate that they did.
So there's another aspect to this. We have over 20, I want to say over 30, but I'll just say over 20 to be safe. Over 20 chemical weapons locations in Ukraine. So if you're Putin and you see the United States setting up all these chemical weapons places, like a lot of places like the Wuhan lab in China, where they're doing gain of function research. Well, what does that mean? Well, we're trying to improve viruses and biochemical weapons to have other functions. We're literally trying to create these things, and they're doing it just outside of Russia on their border. And then you see 20 or 30 of them pop up. What else do you see? You see Kamala Harris, right before he went in, a few days before he went in, say, you know what? Our goal is to allow Ukraine into NATO. which is something we promised we would never do. So we are essentially surrounding Putin and threatening him. Whether you want to see it as that or not, that's what we were doing. And he's saying, you know what? I'm going to attack. And he attacked. And he went into Ukraine. And he's taking sections, or he's took sections of Ukraine. Like, what would we do if Canada started lining up troops on our northern border, or Mexico started lining up troops on our southern border and started building little biochemical weapons factories? What would we do? We wouldn't allow this. We had a pretty big problem with this in Cuba. But now I'm not an apologist for Vladimir Putin, but there is a reason he's doing what he's doing. What they're saying is kind of, it doesn't really make sense, because he would not have stopped when he did it in Crimea.
I think your position is the kind of making America great theme means that America should put itself and its own interests first, and those interests do not include racing to the defense of a country thousands of miles away that's already had a lot of billions of American money poured into it and can't defeat the enemy anyway. Is that broadly where you sit?
Yes. And if you go talk to the progressive left, or if you go talk to anyone at a MAGA rally, they'll tell you the exact same thing. This is one of the most unifying issues in America right now, is that Americans are done having our greatest treasure, which is the lives of Americans, poured into countries that are not our own, defending territories and borders that are not our own. And then other treasures of Americans, like our national debt, our actual monies, being spent to the tune of $35 trillion in debt. What is that going to leave our children? It certainly hasn't made the world a safer place, Piers. And I'll say this, it is suicidal for Joe Biden on his way out to sabotage a peace that President Trump has promised to bring to this region. And I hope he does, because an ugly peace is better than a hot war. For Joe Biden to say that American missiles should be lobbed into the heart of Russia. Would you stand for it if Russian missiles were being lobbed into the Midwest? I certainly wouldn't.
Well, Russian missiles are being lobbed indiscriminately into a European sovereign democratic country. They've also just recruited 10,000 North Korean soldiers to join the war.
See, this is the argument that I don't understand, because Ukraine also solicited NATO, and we're there. So as soon as Russia did it, it's a problem. I don't understand this mindset. It's really they're a sovereign nation. Okay, what does that have to do with us? What does that have to do with the United States? What does that have to do with my tax dollars, more importantly?
And I'm just curious, Benny, genuinely curious. I hear you, yes, and I respect your opinion. Genuinely curious, if you went back 25, 30 years, the idea that Republicans would be happy for a Russian dictator helped by North Korea to invade a sovereign democratic European country.
That's not what happened. They did not need North Korea's help. North Korea just now jumped in. 1,000 days after we jumped in. It's bad framing of what's really going on there. Russia went straight in. They just did. They felt threatened, and they said, we're not going to be threatened. And the framing of that is bad framing. It's not what's happening right now.
And actually want Putin to keep what he's stolen would be unthinkable. Stolen. I mean, I think, for example, well, hang on.
I'm not going to allow.
I think, okay, you can answer, but I'll add this to
you, man. But I'm not going to allow you to categorize.
Well, let me add this to it.
I'm not going to allow you to categorize it that way. Nobody's happy about this.
I will, but
Vladimir Putin's an
hang on, let me finish.
He's a dictator.
Let me finish.
And nobody likes this war. I don't want this war to happen. I don't want this war to be won by. I don't want this war to be happening at all. I want there to be peace. I want people to stop dying.
Yeah.
I would, much like Israel and Gaza, I want peace. I do not want this to drag on so that it creates a nuclear conflict that might draft my children or your children into another war. You have military-age sons, Piers. Would you want them to fight in Ukraine?
But the point I was going to make before you interrupted me was...
But would you? Would you like for your sons, you have military-age sons, you want them to go fight in Ukraine?
I will answer that question in a moment. But what I will say to you first of all is what I was trying to say before you jumped in, which was, what is the difference, just ideologically, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait? Kuwait wasn't a NATO country. Why did Desert Storm happen? Why did General Norman Schwarzkopf, encouraged by every Republican I've ever met in my life, encourage the removal of Saddam Hussein from Kuwait? What is the difference?
There is no difference, which is, we can say that now, say we shouldn't have done it before. But just because we made a mistake before and admitted mistake by most government officials now, that doesn't mean we can go in and do it again, because we know that it was a mistake to go in and do what we did with Iraq. Like, this is a weird, the argument that he's making does not make sense.
You were basically supporting Kuwait's right to defend itself and to have freedom from a rampaging dictator from Iraq. Why the different rules now? What change?
There's so much that's changed, especially in the policy of the Republican Party, which is where I thought you were going with this, Piers, which is why I cracked a smile, because the Republican Party itself has now taken a stance against neocons. I would argue probably the worst decision Kamala Harris made on the campaign trail, and that's a long list. Piers, I wonder if you'd agree with me on this, is to bring Liz Cheney on the trail.
I totally agree.
And to say, Liz Cheney is going to be my Secretary of Defense.
Totally agree.
You go and say that to Arab communities in Michigan, and you wonder why you lose Michigan.
Yeah.
I think it's suicidal. I think people are done with neocon ideology.
Yeah.
And to your point about Saddam Hussein, I'll say the same thing that I'll say about Putin. I'll say the exact same thing. These are dictators. They're bloodthirsty. I don't think they're to be trusted. I don't like these actions. But let me tell you, I am an American first. I was born on this soil. This is my country. I am a Native American. I'm born here. My grandparents were born here.
Facts.
I do not want my children, and I have 4 peers, to die for Iraq. I don't want my children to die for Afghanistan or die fighting ISIS or Russia in Ukrainian soil. I think that is antithetical to the founding of this nation and antithetical to our great founding father, George Washington, who warned in his last declaration to the American people as he was leaving office, do not get embroiled in foreign entanglements.
And this is what's so frustrating, because everything he said may be true, and yes, Putin's a dictator, he's evil, he's everything they say he is. Saddam Hussein was. What does that have to do with my son? What does that have to do with me? I'm saying I don't want to send our people there or our money there is not the same thing as saying I want them to lose or I want them to win. I don't want us involved. It's got nothing to do with us. I said this a long time ago when the Israel-Palestine thing started. We should just play referee and not allow others to jump in, but they need to handle this. This has nothing to do with us. Every time we get into one of these conflicts, we end up staying there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. This conflict has nothing to do with us. And you heard Zelensky at the beginning here say it's cheaper. For who? Who is it cheaper for? It's not cheaper for us. We have no skin in this game. If we had a pact and they were a NATO ally, we would be required to go in because that's the agreement. But this, we don't have to do this, and we're still doing it. I don't understand this. And this mindset is insane to me.
A deal was done, and Putin got to keep the land he's stolen, along with Crimea. And his next action is to go and invade Poland, just as Nazi Germany did in 1939. What should America do in that position, given that Poland's part of NATO?
You could do that about absolutely any country in the world right now. If Brazil invades another country, then what should we do? Well, did they do it? No. But what if they do? That doesn't make me feel okay about sending our money. What's going on, Mr. Kimi? It doesn't make me feel okay about going to war or paying $250 billion for this war. It really doesn't. The argument that after Putin's done with Ukraine, he might go somewhere else is 100% hypothetical. We deal with him invading our ally territories if he does it. Other than that, it's not our business. It's not my business. And I don't like the what if game, because you can do that about any country. And It's completely counterproductive. What if Canada attacked us? Do we respond? Okay, if they do, then we respond. Like, I don't understand. It's just a weird mindset to have, to try and preemptively go to war with somebody when they haven't even declared war on you.
Again, that would be suicidal for Russia because Poland is part of NATO, and then they would.
But what
Article
should
5,
America
right?
do?
Well, Article 5 would be enacted. This,
So what,
this is a
what
NATO
do you think
article.
morally? What do you think morally America should do in that
The
eventuality?
argument means nothing.
I will have to lead it. I'll have to leave it up to the military minds. Some of them are on this panel.
I mean, I find it strange that you wouldn't say, obviously, you got to kick him out of Poland.
There's this segment.
You see, did you hear what he said? He thinks the answer was obviously we should kick him out of Poland. No. Obviously, he would be starting war with us at that point because he knows the parameters. He knows that they are an ally. Ukraine is not. It's not the same thing. And the guy's giving him the answer saying, well, if he does that, then he's violating the rules. And he knows he's declaring war on the world, essentially. But he's not. So our reason for being there does not add up. Phoenix Rising said that this clearly wasn't cheaper for us because we're the ones paying for it. And everything, while they lie about the reason, they just keep making stuff up. There's new reasons every few months why we have to send them more money. The corruption there is out of control. I did a video. I maybe have done a live or two on it. The waste in Ukraine is unbelievable. They got rid of 12 or 13 of Zelensky's top officials. That would be like all the appointments that Trump just made. That would be like half of them being arrested or fired for corruption. That's what happened to Zelensky. Half his cabinet got fired for corruption. They got yachts. They got new cars. It's our money. The general, Zelensky's general, said, we can't win this. We need to negotiate. He got fired. It's our money. Listen to this guy, because he's all in. He wants to go to war. I don't understand this. And I think it's clear he doesn't have kids, or he can't, or he wouldn't. It's probably yucky to him. But listen to this guy.
The Republican Party that has a weird homoerotic fixation on Putin. They love his tough guy image. They love his tough guy politics.
The irony of this guy mocking other people using these gay remarks, these gay slurs. Everyone on the panel should have started laughing at this, but they didn't. But I thought it wasn't okay to use homosexuality as a slur. It sounds to me like he's essentially saying these guys are gay. Is that okay now? I thought the left was against this. So him saying, oh, you guys are gay, that's why you don't want to go to war? Is that really supposed to work on adults? What are you, 6?
So you got to kick him out of Poland.
There's this segment of the Republican Party that has a weird homoerotic fixation on Putin. They love his tough guy image. They love his tough guy politics. Doesn't appeal to me, but it does appeal to a certain segment of the Republican Party.
Just think about that. He just said, you guys are gay because you don't want to go to war with Putin. Is this okay? How's this guy not canceled after saying something so ridiculous? This is so unbelievable.
And to bring up the neocons and what happened 20, 25 years ago, I didn't support the Iraq War. I was 19 in 2003. And I'm firmly in support of this war, supporting Ukraine, because this is a generational fight. History is repeating itself. All the claims that Putin is making about Russian speakers in the Donbass region and past territorial claims, it's the exact same argument that Hitler made in World War II, going into the Rhineland and then Czechoslovakia and, of course, Poland. And the other panel member talking about America First, we had an America First movement in 1938, 1939, 1940 to keep the United States out of World War II.
So now he's comparing it to Hitler in World War II. Do you see what they evoke Hitler and World War II for everything? Trump says he wants to secure our borders. Hitler. If I wore this hat, Hitler. No matter what happens, they will evoke Hitler. And how do you argue against that? Like, it's like arguing with somebody over faith and they evoke Jesus. Like, okay, well, that's the end of the argument. Well, God says I should do this. How do you argue with this? What do you say? No, well, I like Hitler. No, you can't. It's really, really, it's sick. I don't like that. And now that he's comparing Putin to Hitler, okay, so then why didn't we just go all in the first place? If what you're saying is true, why didn't we go all in the first place? What's going on, Mel? These arguments don't hold up if you ask one or two more questions. If you're able to follow up with one or two more questions, their arguments fall completely apart. Because he's saying this is the same language. Putin is using the same language as Hitler used. Okay. Well, when he gets to Poland, then talk to me. But this is not a NATO ally. We are preemptively funding a proxy war with Russia just in case they do more than they say that they're going to have to do. And we don't audit the money. Why don't we audit the money? I showed a few lives ago, I may have to link this, but the lady was saying, well, we don't have to audit. I think it was Jon Stewart. It may have been my last live, whenever it was. She was like, well, it's too chaotic to audit the money. And because the Department of Justice failed its last 7 audits, doesn't mean that they're doing a bad job. It just means they don't know where the money is. At some point, we have to demand truth over the fear-mongering. Absolutely. Follow-up questions. It's weird to compare Putin to Hitler if someone knew history between Germany and Russia. There's more of an issue with Nazism in Ukraine than there is in Russia. Like, again, to Mel's point, there is a much larger issue with Nazism in Ukraine. If you know anything about this, you'd be like, wait, why are we involved in this? It doesn't make sense. There is a serious Nazi presence in Ukraine, much larger than there is here in the United States. And we have a lot more people. But they have the issue. It was actually reported on by us, by the United States, before this war, before Putin went into Crimea and took Crimea. We used to complain about the corruption and the Nazism that's going on there. And now we're defending it, talking about their sovereign nation and we need to help them. Why? I'm not rooting against them. I'm not rooting for them. I'm not rooting for Putin. I'm not pro-Putin. We have no business being there, other than there is a potential threat after Putin's war with them for him to enter another country that we do have an agreement with. And that, to me, doesn't make any sense. A preemptive war to stop a war. How does that add up to anybody?
I don't want to go to war. I don't like war. But sometimes democratic nations aren't given a choice. What is happening today has never happened since the advent of nuclear weapons. A nuclear-powered state has said, this territory used to belong to us, we want it back, give it to us because we have nuclear weapons. This is not something the Western Alliance or the international community can tolerate. Nuclear states talking about historical claims, saying, give us back territory that once belonged to us, otherwise we're going to nuke you.
What does that have to do with Mel Dub, Phoenix Rising, John Thompson, Miss Akimi? What does that have to do with us? We have to stand up to these people, these evil people. Like, what is this guy? Who is this guy? He does not, I can tell you right now, just by listening to all the S's, he ain't got no kids. He's not sending any sons into war. We're escalating this thing. Joe Biden literally authorized mid to long range missiles that can go up to 200 miles into Russia. Why now? Why now? It's only escalating. This is a fact, Mel. This is absolute fact. There were videos of Ukraine fighters who had tattoos of swastikas. They're on the same side. So to act as if Putin is the Nazi it's ironic at the least. At the least.
Day 2 of this full-scale invasion, and we just went over 1,000 days. Day 2, Putin raised the equivalent of his DEFCON, saying, don't help Kyiv. Don't give any assistance, otherwise we might use nukes. And for 1,000 days, they haven't used nukes because they can't. I can lay out the arguments why, but this is not tolerable because it'll never end. If this works, it will embolden dictators around the world.
I think the theme of your book, though, is that very much that Russia was provoked into waging this war.
Absolutely was. And this guy actually wrote a book on it. He's very knowledgeable. So just listen to him versus what the other guy is talking about, this hypothetical stuff. I don't, that guy, as I was watching this, I'm like, what is he talking about? We don't have an obligation. This has nothing to do with us. This, Phoenix Rising, this has nothing to do with us. It never does. They're pushing for us to help a non-ally to our own detriment, just in case they extend this war to an actual ally. So the whole world is going against Russia to stop Russia from going at us? Does that make any sense? We're going to attack them to make sure they don't attack us.
Why do you say that?
Well, of course, it was. It was American meddling, as you say, going back really to the end of the last Cold War. And I'm not arguing either that they gave the Russians no choice, because I think they had lots of choices to do this. That still doesn't absolve the responsibility of the Americans. And basically, to sum it up, it's broken promises on NATO expansion. It's missile defense systems installed in Romania and Poland in violation of the Founding Act of 1997. And it's essentially an American-backed side in a long-term civil war that's going on in the country after America overthrew the government twice in 10 years, in the Orange Revolution of 2004 and the Maidan Revolution of 2014, because the wrong guy kept winning the election.
The guy asked what promises. We promised that we would never allow Ukraine into NATO. Why? Because Putin saw that as a direct as essentially an act of war. So we say, you know what? We have no interest in this country. We're not going to do that. What do? We blow up Nord Stream. We blow up their oil pipeline, and we support these people. And now we're allowing them to fire our weapon. It says U.S. on the missiles that are being lobbed into Russia. And we're sitting here acting like, what's wrong? I don't understand. They can't use nuclear weapons. Oh, they absolutely can. And just because he keeps threatening it and hasn't done it yet does not mean it's not going to happen. What are we going to do if he does? How would it then have something to do with us? Why would that escalate it for us to intervene? We're causing it. We got all our brothers and cousins to surround one guy, and we're taking this other guy's side. And we're pushing him. And we're giving the guy rocks. We're giving this guy weapons to fight him. How else is he supposed to take this? How are we supposed to take this? Mel said, it's funny listening to commies who are against fascists defend Nazi-friendly country against a commie-friendly. It doesn't make sense. We blew it up. I think later in here, you're going to hear them say that Ukraine did it. No, we did it. And it came out pretty quickly because Ukraine was trying to say Russia did it. And then Russia was like, why would we blow up our own pipeline? And then they started asking our officials about it. No comment. That's an answer. Whether you like it or not, that is an answer. This is what our current administration has done in 4 years. We started this war. Kamala saying we're going to allow them into NATO started this war. Sorry, my voice is cracking. I've been under the weather. For the people who weren't in here earlier, my wife was out of town all last week, so I couldn't go live like I wanted to. But either way, I had lost my voice. I had a cough. I still have a cough. That's why I keep muting. But yeah, I don't understand why people want war. No matter if you don't like the dictator, no matter. Why do you want people to die? Why do you want people to die? How is this acceptable from our own officials? $250 billion. Now, it's not all cash. A lot of it was military weapons. But there was enough cash. I want to say it's almost $100 billion that Zelensky got. We have no auditing. We're not auditing the money. We have no idea how he's using the money. He keeps coming back. And they may talk about it in here. Hold on, I got an article. You guys are this is gonna really, let me see. I have an article. Hold on, let me type this in. This is gonna annoy you. Biden forgives loan. This is crazy. Forgives. So you guys who all thought Biden was going to do student loan forgiveness a few years ago, I want you to look at this. This is gonna infuriate you. Share screen. Ukraine. This one. What's going on, Henry? How you doing, sir? Right here, 4 days ago. The Biden administration informs Congress it will forgive $5 billion in economic loans to Ukraine. Remember when he ran on student loan forgiveness? Can't do that. But out of the $250 billion that we sent to Ukraine, he's going to forgive $5 billion in cash. Congress passed a funding package that earmarked another $60 billion in April. This article is as of November 21st. That was a few days ago. This is where I got that video where he said it's smart to support you. It's cheaper. We're forgiving loans to this country who also said they don't want to negotiate with Russia. So they don't want it to end. They just want us to keep funding their war. While we sit here and say, hey, you know what? Well, I don't agree with this, but how about a little flexibility on the student loans that we took out? Yes, I understand it's my fault. I took out the loan. I was young. I made a mistake. How about you do that? And then Biden and Kamala, they ran on forgiving student loans, and the government said, nope, not going to happen. Okay, whatever. They did it for some federal employees. Fine, no problem. But when a foreign country at war, a foreign country at war that we're funding asks for a forgiveness on their loans, we say, okay. $9 billion structured as a loan. We're going to allow them to keep, $5 billion. We're going to allow them to keep 5 of it. You know what? It's on the House. You can't make this up. And it would really be bad if I found this other article that I had. I had it somewhere. But what could we have used this $4.65 billion on? Finishing the wall? There was a whole article about us sending Ukraine aid to secure their borders. That was the most, let me see if I can find that. I'm telling you, people, if you don't pay attention, you'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Just the irony that we're Biden funding Ukraine border security. Yep, there it is. Wait, no, that's not it. Ukraine funding. Biden brings. I'm gonna find it and bring it up next time because that wasn't really what I was. I have a full article. They're hiding it. But there's a full article on the need to secure Ukraine's border from their foreign enemies. And I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, but we said walls don't work. What are we doing? We said walls don't work. It's unbelievable. No. He said, man, that $5 billion could have been used. Yes. I mean, possibly secure. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see that. I said the same thing. I don't understand. I do not understand. Hey, how about we use it for our veterans? It's a lot of money. They'll say, oh, it's just pennies. It's not a lot of money. In the overall grand scheme of things, yes, it's not. But it is a lot of money if you give it to our veterans. We're literally funding the security for another country's border while our own AOC and all Pelosi and Schumer, while they're all saying walls don't work, there's no need to secure our own borders. And nobody's complaining about this.
Americans said over and over again, and I document it as thoroughly as could be, we are taking Ukraine away from Russia. This is not allowing Ukraine to be independent. This is America forcing the issue. And as everyone on this panel knows, the status quo in Crimea held from 1991 all the way through 2014. Until America overthrew the government there for the second time, and the new government.
America did not overthrow the governments. You can look at the crowds.
Oh, shut up, man! You know what? We heard your piece. They immediately threatened to kick the Russians out of the Sevastopol naval base. Only then did the Russians change the status quo on the Crimean Peninsula, which, by the way, belonged to Russia since the 1780s, since before the American Constitution.
So did
was
Alaska.
even...
Should we give Alaska back?
So again, the dude, so did Alaska. Like, what does that have to do with what he's talking about? Russia had this territory since the 1700s. He just said it. We purchased, exactly. So Russia had this territory. There was a conflict that we started. We helped the government overthrow another government. We started it because we didn't like the guy there who was, he was too friendly with Putin. So we overthrew him, and then they got Crimea. So then under the Obama administration, Putin goes back in and takes Crimea back. And we're acting as if that was some kind of huge, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal because people die. Obviously, it's a big deal. But it's not like he doesn't have a right to claim it. No, once you lose, I get it. But if you have the ability to take it back, this is what civilizations do. Whether it's in South America and you're talking about Mayans and Incans, or if you're in Africa and you're talking about the Congo and you're seeing wars going on in Ethiopia versus Eritrea. If you go into the Middle East, it's always going to be there. This is my land. There are people who still say we should give California back. I don't know to who, I guess we should just give it back. Texas and California to the Native Americans. There's always going to be these kinds of disputes, is my point. That does not mean we need to get involved when it's not here. It's not even on this side of the world. It's wild. As Akimi said, notice they do that a lot. They're on the verge of getting exposed. He's going to keep jumping in. So is Alaska. Dude, what are you doing? And he said, I got into an argument with someone because they were upset that I said the money we're using to house illegals could be used for our homeless veterans. It shouldn't even be a debate. It should be a no-brainer. It should be a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we take care of our veterans versus people who aren't even supposed to? They broke the law just to get here. Force them to the back of the line. Allow them to still try to come back. But force them to the back of the line. Figure out who they are. This is just, it's wild. It's wild. Oh, yeah, they said give it back to Mexico, yeah. There's always going to be these kinds of claims. So the fact that Russia has their claim still has nothing to do with us. So you heard Piers a couple times say they stole this land. Okay, was it stolen from him? Who decides that? That's for them to decide. It's not for us. It has nothing to do with me and my tax dollars. I feel bad when people die in war. That's happening all over the world. Why do we get to pick and choose whose lives are more important?
Anyway, this guy's an idiot. But if you want me to keep talking with you, Pierce, I'll happily
finish your point.
You know, this guy sounds. I'll tell you what. With this guy talking about, oh, we just have to help them win. That's what they said for 20 years in Afghanistan. We just have to help the Tajiks and the Hazaras and the Uzbeks crush the Pashtuns. And once we're done, it'll be great. We can't sell them out now. We can't leave now. And then what happened?
Facts.
Hundreds of thousands of people killed, and they lost anyway. And everyone knows it's in the Wall Street Journal. It's in the Council on Foreign Relations Journal, Foreign Affairs. Even Richard Haass, the former president of the CFR, has a new piece in Foreign Affairs saying, give it up. We know that there's nothing America can do to help Ukraine retake the Donbass, Zaporozhye, Kherson, Crimea. They can't unless you want to call in the B-2s and the B-52s and the U.S. Navy, at which point we have a general war. So the war is lost. So this guy can bloviate all he wants about how, no, it would be wrong to turn our back now. The Russians haven't even launched a full-scale mobilization in their country. This is a police action to them, while the Ukrainians are already running out of men, and Jake Sullivan is demanding that they increase conscription. That is slavery. On behalf of a war, look at antiwar.com today. We have the
Russia
headline.
has conscription.
The majority
Is
of
that slavery?
Ukrainians want to.
Did you hear his response? So conscription is essentially forcing people to sign up. It's recruitment. But in Ukraine, it's by force. They don't have a choice. So listen to what this guy, the guy with the beard, says. He says, I just want you to hear his response to this.
They can't unless you want to call in the B-2s and the B-52s and the U.S. Navy, at which point we have a general war. So the war is lost. So this guy can bloviate all he wants about how, no, it would be wrong to turn our back now. The Russians haven't even launched a full-scale mobilization in their country. This is a police action to them, while the Ukrainians are already running out of men, and Jake Sullivan is demanding that they increase conscription. That is slavery. On behalf of a war, look at antiwar.com today. We have the
Russia
headline.
has conscription.
The majority
Is
of
that slavery?
Ukrainians want to negotiate.
The Ukrainians want to negotiate. He said they're forcing conscription, which means essentially they're forcing people to enlist. And this conscription is recruitment. Right now, there is an entire black market where young men in Ukraine are trying to flee the country. And they pay a lot of money to get out. Ukraine is securing their borders, not from people coming out, from their own young military-age males from leaving. They catch them, they beat them, they call them traitors, and they force them to enlist. It's forced recruitment. I don't even know why they say recruitment. They have no choice. They literally beat them, lock them up until they promise to fight, which is why they're losing a lot of their battles. These people are waiting till they're on the other side and leaving and fleeing. What is the other guy? What is his response? Russia has conscription. That's his response. Is that slavery? It's unbelievable. It's forcing men to enlist mid-war that they don't even want to fight. He just said they had a survey. They don't want the war. Zelensky wants the war. The United States wants Joe Biden. Joe Biden wants the war. The military-industrial complex wants the war. They all have something to gain. Biden would go straight to prison if he stopped this war. Why? Because Zelensky has already made it clear that he would absolutely expose everything Hunter Biden did in his country. The reason why we're tied to them right now is that. The reason why these government contractors are tied to it, because they make the weapons. They're refining the oil. They're the ones who are selling the minerals. They have this huge money laundering scheme in this country. It is insane for anybody to think that we have anything to do there that's good. There's nothing good about us being there. We are saving lives. That's great. We're saving lives. That's fine. Yeah, Miss Hakimi. That call, Henry, the call that Trump made to Zelensky, Zelensky said he would look into it. He didn't look into it. And Trump was out of office. That's when Biden all of a sudden was all in on this war. All in. It's really, really, there's so much to this. I'm telling you, I've done videos on this. My first one is the roadmap to Ukraine. Hunter Biden and the roadmap to the Ukraine war. If you watch that one, you're going to be like, you've got to be kidding me. It shows all of his corruption leading up to the Ukraine war and when we went in. And why we have no choice but to fund it. It's not that we don't have a choice. Biden has no choice but to fund it. He'd be in prison already. He'd have been in prison. It's deep. It is deep. There's more, Henry. On the Hunter Biden laptop, it has already been shown that there are text messages of Hunter asking people, did you go in the garage yet? That's why those documents were behind the Corvette that Hunter and Beau Biden used to work on. Those classified boxes were there for a reason. They left them in the garage so people could come in and go check the garage, see what they wanted to see, and leave. It's documented. Him asking people, hey, did you get to go to the garage yet? That's what that means. That's why there was random classified documents behind Joe Biden's Corvette in his garage. There's an entire place. It's called the Penn. So there's a place in the Biden Penn Center, whatever it is. It's in Chinatown. There's an office. One of Hunter Biden's offices is in Chinatown. They found classified documents in this random office building, unsecured, completely unsecured. Which is why when they were going into Mar-a-Lago, and they're like, well, wait a minute, Mar-a-Lago is completely secured. There's actually Secret Service there, and the government told them about the documents, make sure they're secured, and then we'll do the requests, because there's a whole process to getting the documents back. And this happens with every administration. And Trump did exactly what they said, locked the stuff up in a room in Mar-a-Lago. It is secure. This office building in Chinatown in Pennsylvania was not secure, but Biden got away with it. There was classified documents in there. Top secret. There was classified documents in his house, in the garage. Why? There's so much. There's so much. There's so much. This is why Trump, even under the Biden DOJ, was found. It wasn't a big deal. The stuff that he had was not a big deal. It just wasn't, and it was secured, and that's what they told him to do. They said he wasn't cooperating. He wasn't giving it back, and there is a legal argument that he doesn't have to give the stuff back. He just didn't. But there's no argument for Biden, who did it as vice president and as a senator. He has no privileges. The president has privileges. He has none. And he kept documents. And what did they say about him? It was pretty egregious, but he's old. He can't withstand trial. He can run the country. He can keep funding a war. He can authorize missiles in a war, but he can't go to trial for all the classified documents that they know were recklessly handled. They said it. Yeah. If you guys knew the stuff that I know, it's wild. And I can prove everything I just said. And I have shown this stuff on videos. I used to make videos before I started going live. I have so many. I have like 300 videos. But this is, it's so deep. And when you know it, it becomes more frustrating, which is why sometimes I'm really passionate about things that other people are like, man, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, no, but there's layers to this. This all goes back to this. It's insane.
There's your democracy for you. The majority of Ukrainians know that what I just said is true. Even Yulia Tymoshenko a year ago said it's time to negotiate.
Okay.
This guy's a fool.
Okay, well, before I go to General Kimmett, again, I want to just get Jake to just respond to that.
Hold on, free Jake.
You're a fool, apparently.
Well, according to this guy, democratic revolutions are never possible. We had one in this country in 1776.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?
Wow. Okay, you got some
I
anger
didn't say it was
issues, man.
never possible. America spent $100 million to overthrow the government in Ukraine.
These guys
That's
on this
not a
panel are
democratic
arguing that the
revolution.
people of the former
That's
Soviet
Barack
republics
Obama
have
and
no
Joe
right to
Biden overthrowing
self-determination.
the government
They're
there.
saying that as soon as
Give me
Putin
a
installs
break.
a strong man in any of these countries that remains corrupt and loyal to him, change is never possible. Viktor Yanukovych was not killed. He was not imprisoned. He fled. He fled back to Russia. He fled back to his masters. And in my opinion, when you're the president of a country and you
because
flee
America
the country,
spent $100 million
you gave up your power.
overthrowing him. Look, man.
Okay, so if I'm being serious here. I genuinely want to understand the conspiracy that the United States is behind the color revolutions of these Soviet
you never
republics.
heard of the National Endowment for
Because
Democracy, huh?
when Russia invaded, why did we offer them a ride? Why the delay in tanks? Why the delay in HIMARS? Why the delay in Patriot systems? Why the delay in F-16s? Why are we just giving approval for ATACMS this week?
I can answer that. The reason why we didn't approve any of that back then, because Biden would have been impeached. He can't just unilaterally say, you know what, we'll give all of you guys, we'll give you guys these missiles, we'll give you tanks, everything he just said. He can't do that. It's not our war. There's no legal justification for it. Congress would have never gone for it, even with the Democrats. Nobody wants it. So there's a small group that wants this. I don't like that they're funding it. I don't like these neocons. This is one of the problems I have with Marco Rubio. But I don't like these neocons who want these wars. And they keep voting for sending them $60 billion here, $100 billion there, $40 billion here, $10, $20 billion here. We'll forgive some loans there. The reason I don't like this is because that small group are the ones who are the reason why we're in these wars. And they're also the reason why we can't get anything done here, because they attach those funding bills to infrastructure, to our border security, to immigration. Everything we try to do here, they attach military funding for wars onto it. So then they'll say, well, Speaks doesn't want to fund, he doesn't want to pay the troops. It's like, well, I want to pay the troops, but you attached it to a war. So I'm going to vote no to the war. Oh, he doesn't want to fund the troops. This is why I don't like omnibus bills, which is just all pork. I prefer the line item, single subject bills, but there's issues with those too. Anyway, sorry.
After 1,000 days of the war, if the conspiracy always was the United States was trying to separate Ukraine from Russia, that we're trying to install a CIA-backed government or whatever, I don't understand this conspiracy when we haven't done everything to fully support Ukraine.
Okay.
We can't. That's why we haven't. We can't. We shouldn't. Saying, well, we haven't done it is not a justification for doing it now and justifying it now.
Okay,
Can you explain this to me? Because I don't understand.
Okay, let me just time out for a second. I want to bring in General Kimmett. I'll come back to you, Scott.
Well,
I
he
promise
asked
you.
me something, Pierce, so let me answer it.
Okay.
Look, you're completely mixing up what I said about 2014 with then questions about 22. Clearly, as everyone on this panel knows, they announced repeatedly in the New York Times and the Washington Post in March and April of 22 that the purpose of the war now is to prolong it for the strategic weakening of Russia. So no amount of the weapons
Russia can stop this war at any time. Russia's weakening themselves by continuing this war.
No amount of the weapons you just named would have turned the tide at that.
So he's still putting it on Russia. So we can't put a stop to it. Russia has to be the ones to do it. Russia can do it at any time. Dude, this is
point.
Okay, let me bring in.
The Biden administration decided to trickle the weapons in, as you correctly described, in order to keep the war going.
All right, let me bring in General Kimmett. I want to bring in General Kimmett now.
So I like this guy because he's a general and he's fact-based and he just goes straight down the line. There's no bias in there. And he's just really smart, and I really like his commentary on it, because he's just giving you, this would be the strategy if you do this, this would be the strategy if you do that, and he can just give you either side. That's how it's supposed to be. I don't like all this bickering. Even the guys who I agree with, I don't like that. It's pointless.
General Kimmett,
Oh, yeah,
a lot
you
of
don't
people have.
understand.
Hang on,
That's
Scott.
why-
Let me bring in the
that's
others.
The same reason they backed
there are
the
four
Mujahideen
people on
in
the panel.
Afghanistan in the 80s.
Scott, let me bring in General
bog
Kimmett. He's
Russia
been waiting
down
very.
and bleed them to bankruptcy.
Scott,
Do you
I will come
understand?
back to you.
Have you seen Rambo 3?
There are
It's
four
the
of us
same
on the.
thing.
Four
Are you
people on the
pro-Soviet
panel.
Union?
Yes, we've seen Rambo 3. This is what a beta on the right looks like, and a beta on the left. Have you seen Rambo 3? They're both idiots. And again, I agree with the dude with the beard, but this is not how you make a case. It's just not it.
All right, guys, please, time out.
Jesus
Time
Christ,
out,
you're
please.
so stupid. Give
General
me a
Kimmett,
break.
thank you for your patience.
There's
A lot
no
of
one more
people are very
anti-communist
concerned, General
than you.
Kimmett, about the possibility of this developing into a nuclear conflict. I've never understood that, because every red line that's been crossed in this war, of which there have been multiple Putin red lines crossed, he's not done anything, despite threatening to use nukes all the time, and his people threaten to use nukes all the time. I don't understand why anyone thinks he would use nuclear weapons, given the establishment of MAD, mutually assured destruction. Why would he press a button that leads to his instant death? Am I misguided? Am I naive? Or is that the military view too?
Before the general answers, I can answer this. You have psychopaths like Senator Lindsey Graham saying Putin needs to be killed. He needs to be executed. We need to take him out, take him out, take him out. If he really believed that we were going to do that, why wouldn't he start a war? He's going to die anyway, right? So what Piers is saying is he's a smart dude. I don't understand why he's saying there's been several red lines and he hasn't launched yet. So why do we think he's ever going to launch? Well, so you're just going to keep crossing red lines. So when he finally does it, that's when we pull back. Why provoke? Why keep crossing these red lines? I don't understand it. It's a weird mindset. Well, he hasn't launched nukes yet, and he keeps threatening. So we're just going to keep going until we find that line, and he actually hits a button and nukes part of Ukraine. Then we'll say, oh, okay, well, I guess he did mean it after all. Why play with human lives? Why are we playing with human lives by saying something so it's psychotic what he's saying? Why would he do it if he knows he's going to die instantly? He would do it if we threatened, like Lindsey Graham keeps saying, if there was any credibility to what Lindsey Graham is saying on that, we need to take out Speaks. Then I'm going to say, well, I might as well hit the button. I'm dying anyway. That's the motivation. When you back somebody into a corner, you're essentially forcing their hand. You don't think that Putin saw what happened to Saddam Hussein? You don't think Putin saw what happened to Noriega? Like what happened to these dictators when they did get taken down is brutal. I challenge anyone to watch what happened to Saddam Hussein and say it's not sick. Because no matter who the guy is, no matter how many people he's killed, to see it is like, oh my God. I'm not even going to go into detail. They did stuff, they violated him. And again, hang him, do whatever you want. That's not what they did. They violated him publicly. He was bleeding out of everywhere. I think they dragged him around in a vehicle. Like if Putin thinks that's going to happen to him, you don't think he's going to nuke? You don't think he's going to nuke? Of course he is. Definitely. Definitely. And yes, he's cool, but he doesn't understand Americans. Yeah. And the other thing he does when he takes up a cause, he's taking it from a European's perspective and ignoring our interests and what's really going on here. It's not the same as these other countries. We have more waste than all of those countries. We just have the appearance of a stable government, but the corruption here it's insane.
Well, let me give you the other side of the argument. It doesn't
Here's
matter
reality.
what I believe, but the other side of the argument to argue against your point would be that Soviet military tactics and their doctrine always permitted the use of tactical nuclear weapons, artillery-launched nuclear weapons on the battlefield if the country of Russia was invaded. There is a legitimate doctrinal purpose for using artillery-launched nuclear weapons once they went into Kursk. I mean, you're talking about a nuclear weapon that really isn't much more than about 5 or 6 155 rounds hitting the ground at the same time. So my view would be doctrinally, Putin has an argument to make. His country has been invaded. His doctrine says use nukes if we're invaded. Now, whether he will or not, I think, is a different story. As has been mentioned a number of times so far, we've allowed ourselves to be self-deterred throughout this war. You ask, I don't believe that your guest that says we're doing this intentionally to bleed out the Russians by giving dribs and drabs of equipment to the Ukrainians so that we can go on a killing spree for 1,000 days at this point. I would simply say no administration is that smart and no administration is that stupid. But it's
and I agree. I like that he's able to say the same thing. What's going on, Hassan? That he's able to say, okay, what this guy said, even though I agree with most of what he says, I don't agree with that. And he's able to say it. Like it's all of them were. All of them were. So was Saddam Hussein. And I'm not saying they were good people, but I'm saying if Putin thinks, what's going on, by the way? If Putin thinks that that's going to happen to him, why wouldn't he press a button? I don't disagree with what you said. It's true. It's objectively true. But that doesn't mean that the United States needs to get involved. And it definitely doesn't mean that we need to fund it. If we're not going to be physically there, we shouldn't be doing a proxy war. This has nothing to do with us. But yes, correct.
It's not just the Americans the Republicans that either want to start war or stop war. It's really both sides of the aisle. And I think both sides of the aisle will say, look, America is willing to fight a war that's an existential threat to the United States of America. But these optional wars, we shouldn't be rushing to war just because there's somebody pointing a gun at either us or our allies. There ought to be a higher bar. The Brzezinski rules that we used to talk about before we start putting American sons and daughters into combat. And we seem to have lowered that bar ever since 1982 or 1983 when we valiantly parachuted into Grenada to stop that hotspot of red terrorism. But no, I just think that, look, anybody that says America should go to all wars or America should go to no wars is just being foolish. We just have to be more discriminate about the wars that we fight. We need to have a better conversation about going into war before we send the 82nd Airborne in.
That was very sound.
Yeah, it was very interesting, I thought.
Very reasonable. Very reasonable.
And also, Benny, I don't want to go over each of the conflicts, but Trump definitely seems to be with you on this, right? And do you think that is becoming almost the mainstream now with Republicans?
The American people are with me, Piers, because the American people are grounded in reality. I have an article right here on my phone.
Everybody.
That I'm reading right now. It is breaking news at time of recording, Piers, that says that Joe Biden has forgiven the loan.
That's what I talked about earlier.
Up to the tune of $10 billion that was given to Ukrainian armed forces. So this is just money that will be carried on the debts and the backs of our grandchildren's grandchildren forever for a Ukrainian war that somebody has yet to, quite frankly, explain why we are funding or fighting. And this is something that is catastrophic to the American mind when they can't afford groceries, when a mother is standing in line wondering how she will feed her children or how she will fill up her gas tank or why there are so many massive potholes on her road with a house that she has to rent a single room in because she can't, God help her, afford a home. That's utterly out of reach and unfathomable in the current economy. And she's sitting here looking at Joe Biden forgiving the loans of Ukraine to go slaughter the flower of Russia and Ukraine, these young children that are fighting and dying in these trenches. And she's wondering, what the hell? I can't feed my kids. And Taylor Swift and Lizzo and Oprah And all these billionaires are out telling me this is great.
Now, look at the sissy. Apologies. If there's any sissies in the chat, I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. He's rolling his eyes when this dude is essentially preaching. I don't know. I don't personally know, and I know people on the left and the right who would not agree with everything he just said. And the sissy, or the guy in the middle, is rolling his eyes like, oh, well, poor mom. This is why they lost. And they don't understand it. Because they're so arrogant to think that what this guy is saying is a joke. It's not a joke. Why is he rolling his eyes? Outside of being, why is he rolling his eyes? Sorry.
This is good. No, it's not good. It's how you lose an entire country. And it's a horrible thing to do to the American people.
They just lost the
country.
country.
I'm telling you, Piers, because I have a man on the street show and I go and I talk to both sides. You can go to the far left Palestinian protests. You can go to the far right Israel and or all the way to the heart of MAGA, and they'll all say the same thing. And I ask them these questions, Piers, and I'm telling you, this has got to be a 90-10 issue in America. If any politician's listening, this is your 90-10 issue.
Yep.
Americans want money spent in America first to improve the lives of Americans first. And
this is now universal. Doesn't matter if you're white, Hispanic, black. They just found out this is true. So why this guy is rolling his eyes is wild to me. It's wild because he's that out of touch.
Big hearts with the biggest hearts in the world to help out those in need. But we are sick and tired of being sold out for endless wars. And you just listed many of them. For my generation, which is millennial, it's Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And how did we leave Afghanistan? With 13 body bags in an avoidable, chaotic, disastrous, nightmarish, suicidal mission that got us effing nothing, Piers. And we're sick of it.
Jay, your response to that?
America's not fighting this war. There's no American forces on the ground in Ukraine fighting this war for Ukraine. So to keep saying, this is America.
Do you hear how he just completely left the money part out of it? It's like he didn't hear anything that guy said. Nothing he said. America's not fighting this war. That's not troops. That's what Kamala said. And just because they think you're dumb, they will say things almost to test the waters to see what you really know. He just made a financial case as to why the country is demoralized when it comes to war and spending money elsewhere. And this guy completely ignores that and said, well, there's no troops there. So what? You want to push the line until there are troops there? This is really similar to what they're doing with what if he goes into Poland? Then when we fight, then we'll fight. But that doesn't mean we have to be involved now. He immediately just ignored it. There's no troops there. What is this?
America's war. America shouldn't be fighting this war
with
American soldiers are not
children,
involved.
sir.
Concerning all of the past wars that America has been involved in, we can't overlook the Cold War. Is the world better off today because of the collapse of the Soviet Union? Is the world better off today with the Kremlin and the Russians weakened? The 14 Soviet republics that broke away, some of them have gone through peaceful democratic revolutions.
Is the world better off
Look at the economic
USSR?
miracle of Eastern Europe.
Dude.
It's 2024, and he really just pulled out the USSR card. He is related to. He has to be. This is how they all sound. Absolutely, the left and the right. This is not party line stuff. The left and the right seem to generally not care about Ukraine. The only people who seem to care are those following their party rhetoric. Yeah, and a lot of them don't. They're just scared. They're just scared to get canceled. But those days are over now. More and more and more people are coming up saying, I don't want anything to do with this. Same thing with the Israel war. They're fighting. You may pick a side, but we should not be funding it. We need to stay out of this stuff. Because all that ends up happening is terror organizations look at us as we're the reason. We funded it. We funded it. We trained these people. And there actually are, yes, Mel, there are people training these guys on the weapons system. So yes, they are there. We have American soldiers who are fighting in Ukraine. Like, it's the fact that he just appealed to Gorbachev should tell you that this is not a war worth fighting. Why is he even bringing that up? It's so dumb. And it is assuming that we are all too dumb to understand how dumb what he just said is. America's not at war. There's no soldiers there.
Better off today with the Kremlin and the Russians weakened. The 14 Soviet republics that broke away,
question.
some of them have gone
That's
through
what we
peaceful
all wonder.
democratic
Is the
revolutions.
world better off
Look at
without
the economic
USSR?
miracle of
That's
Eastern
deep,
Europe
dude.
and all these countries joining the EU, joining NATO. Do any of them want to return back to the Russian sphere of influence? What this war is about is, does Ukraine have the right of self-determination? And other people on this panel are saying no, because the Russians have nukes, because we don't want confrontation with Russia. If Russia wants to go into Kiev and install a puppet regime and basically absorb it back into their empire, like they've done with Belarus, they've got troops in Transnistria, they've got troops in Syria, they've got troops in Georgia. The pattern keeps repeating, and Putin's never going to stop. He's dictator for life. He could potentially live another 20 years. These wars are never going to end. When you look at the stuff they're teaching their kids in Russian schools, they're preparing them for war for the next 20 decades.
So his answer is for us to be involved? Nothing he said has anything to do with us. They're a sovereign nation. Okay, so then they need to fight the war. They can defend themselves. But he's trying to make a moral case and appeal to us morally when we can go outside and see homeless people in our country. They know if we, not we, most people here, most adults can relate to student loan forgiveness, whether we agree with it or not, whether we have the debt or not. We can at least say, you know what, they really do target us. They start sending them credit cards immediately. They target us when we're on campus. They target our kids. I was dumb. I shouldn't have done this. I should have just used the grants and worked full time. Like, they know we can relate to this stuff. So for us to hear that we're forgiving $5 billion in loans of Ukraine, how does he not understand that that's a problem? But people are dying. Okay. There are people dying here. Where I grew up, on the south side of Chicago, there are people dying. $5 billion would do really, really well for the Chicago Police Department. Like, there's so many options that we can utilize $250 billion here. But he doesn't see that because he thinks he can guilt you into agreeing with him.
Putin wants his empire back, and I'm going to continue arguing that is not in the best interest of America. A resurgent Soviet Russian empire dominating Central Asia, dominating the Caucasus, dominating Eastern Europe, committing acts of hybrid warfare all the time. The Russians, with impunity, are poisoning people, destroying underwater cables, conducting cyber attacks. When is America going to say is enough? We're not going to let Russia have their empire back. And it's pennies. The billions that we sent in old equipment, we're spending the money here in the United States. Defense production is ramping up here to rebuild our industrial base, to keep the world safer. Peace through strength. That's the legacy of Ronald Reagan, and I don't know why I have to remind Republicans of what Ronald Reagan achieved.
It's pennies. $250 billion is pennies to him. And again, if you want to take it in the overall scope of our budget and the overall scope of our debt, yes, it is pennies. But that's a lot of pennies that can go here. And for him to just dismiss it like that it's mind-boggling to me. It really is. Because you heard Benny Johnson make a full case for a mother with kids struggling, or even a father, or even a full family struggling, paying student loans off while trying to function as a family of 4. You have a car note, you have childcare. Whew, childcare. I was so glad when my son got into kindergarten. I was paying essentially mortgages every month. Every month I was paying over $1,700 for daycare for my son. That's insane. These are issues that can be solved and resolved here. And it seems like these people, these elitists don't get it, or they don't want to get it, or they just don't care about us. They care more about people over there suffering than people here suffering. And that's just wild to me.
Defeating the evil empire. And I don't understand the people on this panel who are saying, let Russia have it, let Russia obtain this population, these people, their resources, and then go to the next war.
Okay.
Poland, the Baltics, Finland, Moldova. It's
No,
never
listen,
gonna end unless we stop
I
it
agree
today.
with you, but others don't. And Scott Halton's one of them.
Wait
Scott,
a second. Russia blew up the pipeline. Hold on. Do you believe that Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Like, do you have better sourcing than the New York Times on this?
He said no. It was. We know the United States did it. Yeah, G-Will, I was paying $1,650 for daycare for my son. For one kid. $1,650 a month. Do I want to do it? No, I don't want to do that. But paying that, student loans, car notes, real mortgage, regular bills, electric here is no joke. Electric here during the summer, $550 a month. And this guy's acting like it's nothing. It's no big deal. My electric bill is over $500 a month. $1,650 for my son. I have my mortgage. Got 2 car notes. Like, so anyone who dismisses our concerns like this is just not worth listening to, because they're clearly not listening to you. Clearly, they're not listening to you. He said 650 with that. Yeah, man. Until they get into kindergarten, try to find a stay-at-home mom. Oh, you just gotta pay. It's just what it is. Phoenix said, yeah, we mean nothing, and we encourage the government to send support to others. Yeah, because they use these compassionate arguments, these moral arguments, and it ignores the morality of here and what we deal with here and the costs of living here. And being able to get rid of a student loan, again, even though we got the loan, we did it, most of us, when we were really young. And a lot of people go to school just so they don't have to start paying on their student loans. Like, this is just the reality of what's going on. So yes, I understand both sides of that one. And I'm agnostic. I don't necessarily agree, but I wouldn't complain. But when we forgive billions of dollars, he said 10. So between 5, what I showed you guys earlier, $5 to $10 billion in loans for Ukraine, but we can't do that here. We can't get Congress to agree to that here, but we got Congress to agree to relieving $5 to $10 billion in Ukraine. How is that possible, and how is that self-serving? And what does that have to do with the United States of America? He said, that's crazy. I delivered 100,000 checks. That's what it is.
Do you actually believe that Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? You just said that Russia blew up the pipeline.
I don't care about the pipeline.
But you just said that in your argument. So now you don't care about your own argument a minute ago?
How many people died with a pipeline blew up, dude? I don't care about this pipeline. I don't know why people keep talking about this pipeline.
Billions of dollars in oil was running from Germany, I believe it's Germany, to Russia. We blew it up. The United States and Ukraine blew it up to hurt Russia. So what does that do? That forces Russia to start getting oil from other countries. Who has oil? All the bad guys. So you are now creating alliances with countries that normally wouldn't even really get along. He doesn't care about that. Billions of dollars in oil, maybe more. He could not care less. And he doesn't understand why we would have a problem with that. That's you're pushing Russia to start dealing with the Middle East. They don't typically like those people over there. They don't want to team up with terrorists. They typically take out terrorism. We're forcing them over there. We're forcing them to China. We're forcing them to Venezuela. We're forcing them to Brazil. And all these countries, we're creating an alliance with outside countries that we don't want to be cool. And what do they start doing? Hey, you know what? These people aren't that bad. Let's form BRICS. Let's stop using those Americans' money. All they do is sanction us. We're creating more problems than we're solving here.
So you don't care that Ukraine blew up the pipeline?
No, it's war.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
They're blowing up oil refineries. What's the difference between an oil refinery and a pipeline?
So you're okay with Ukraine blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, even though that went against
We don't have
the
evidence that
American...
they did blow up the pipeline, but if they did, it's war. Russia is blowing up all their thermal power plants right now. They're blowing up coffee shops. They're blowing up supermarkets. They're blowing up hospitals, children's hospitals. Children's hospitals are being blown up by the Russians.
You see that appeal to your heart, to morality? See that? What about the children's? Well, how about if we stop the war? All of a sudden, he doesn't care about the children. No, we need to keep fighting. They pick and choose when there's currency on lives. Phoenix said, but student forgiveness was out of the question. Reparations is out of the question. Setting up housing and proper medical care is out of the question. Yeah, of course. We can't afford it. But we can send $250 billion to Ukraine and forgive the loans. Daycare owners, many different colors. So, G. Will, you do have a big chance to open the daycare. Oh, man. You can clean up. Clean up with the daycare. Man, you can make money doing that. And it's in demand, and it's so expensive.
I don't give a damn about the pipeline.
But Hitler's long gone, and so's Joe Stalin. Putin is not a romantic. Putin is a bureaucrat. And the fact that, this claim that he wants to rebuild the whole Russian Empire and all that is nonsense. This is a border dispute, and America forced the issue through our intervention in Ukraine over the last, especially 20 years, as I demonstrate in the book. That doesn't mean that he's coming for Poland and the Baltics and everybody else next. This is just essentially fantasy land. That's not what this war is about.
These are facts. And no matter what, it should come back to, okay, well, what's best for your country? Because I can guarantee you right now, if we had a dispute with Mexico, Ukraine would not be sending money or soldiers here. And I could be guessing, could be hypothetical, but I'm telling you they wouldn't. They wouldn't. And we need to realign our government officials, which I think we did a really good job of after this election. I think we realigned them really well. A lot of them still don't understand what's going on. That's fine. But we realigned them. They understand that they did something wrong, whether they figure it out or listen to us as to what they did wrong. They know they at least have to try and figure it out because it's wild. Did anyone want to come up and talk about war or funding war? Or does anybody disagree with what I said? I would love to hear disagreement or agreement or other concerns, because I've done so many videos on this topic. It is astounding to me. It is astounding to me how many people are still for the Ukraine war and think that this money is just, it's not important. 250 billion. And the reason you won't see 250 billion as a total number is because a lot of it is in weapons, tanks, now missiles, fighter jets. They can't use those yet. But they're literally launching missiles that say USA on them. And we're killing Russians by lending missiles. How much are those missiles? I don't understand. And back to this point, there will be a full congressional war over reparations, student loan forgiveness. And again, I'm not even for this stuff. But our Congress would go, they will go weeks fighting over this, but they will immediately pass funding for the Ukraine war because they'll tie it to something that they need. It's weak. It's why I don't like Republicans. Every time somebody calls me a Republican, I'm like, I'm not a Republican. Not because of what the platform is, but because they cave into stuff that they shouldn't. Matt Gaetz is so important. If you did not see what Candace Owens put out about Matt Gaetz and why he had to step down, you should watch that. This dude, I wish he would have fought. I know why he didn't. I get why he didn't. I wish he would have fought because he's important. He is really important. Really important. Maybe they got to find a role for him because he's a hawk and he will find corruption and he will hone in on it and he will hold people accountable. You can't get them back once they blow up. And if you look at what happened in Afghanistan, you heard Trump say that the generals were telling him it's cheaper to leave military equipment there. And that's how we looked at it. Milley told Trump it's cheaper to leave the tanks. It's cheaper to leave all those munitions that we left there. Billions of dollars worth of munitions, or at least hundreds of millions. I want to say billions. That one I'm not sure on. That's cheaper. This is how they look at everything. This is why they're so inefficient. This is why when you look at private business and you look at government bureaucracy, there's a huge chasm between what they prioritize. Because the first thing that a private business is looking at is how can I make everything more efficient and cheaper. That's why this Doge thing is huge. It's huge. Because bureaucrats don't care about the money. It's not theirs. They're spending your money. Why do they care? If somebody can charge them literally $700 to install a toilet and $6,000 for the toilet. They'll say, okay, it's not their money. It doesn't impact them in any way. It's part of their budget. And our budgets, when it comes to bureaucracy and bureaucrats, is you better spend it all because next year they're going to cut your funding. So if you got $8 billion left to spend, you almost act like the Kamala campaign. We got to spend it. Then they overspent. This is what the government does. It's 100% inefficient. Nothing they do is with the interest of efficiency and with the care that it's our money. But also boost the economy if blacks get reparations. USA will be number one in tech if black get. There are arguments for that, but I don't know. And it's cheaper if they leave the weapons overseas. Yep, we learned that one from it. Yep. That's all I got. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Just wanted to talk about that because it's serious. Anytime you talk about war, we should take it way, way, way more seriously than we seem to. And I don't see enough seriousness behind this. And I've been gone a week, and I haven't seen very many people talking about this war and why we're there. And they mention it in passing as, oh boy, looks like we're going to go into World War III. Like that's no big deal. Have you seen what a nuclear Hold on. Have you guys seen what happens if a nuclear weapon hits? Like, this is not a joke. Nuclear weapon, it's not a joke. When something happens, like, this is what happens. This is, all right, let's see. This is not a joke. Let's see. Present. If this happens, the world as we know it is over. I mean, I'm not overstating this. I just Googled this, so I don't know. You guys need to see the scale of this. This is insanity. Let's make this larger. If something like this happens in Texas, in Oregon, in Illinois, this is not good. Like, that's an understatement, what I just said, obviously. But when these things hit,
we are now at DEFCON 1. Security lockdown.
Russian
nukes in space.
The country recently tested
wanna see one
a
land,
nuclear-capable
so I can see what-
hypersonic missile.
Hypersonic missiles and aircraft could be the future of warfare.
Or over 200 what it looks like when one hits. Because I've seen. What's going on? This is all digital. These are simulations.
One of the most powerful.
Oh well. Let me see if I can find one, a good one. Not that it's good, but you know what I mean. True scale. Sorry. I'm just curious. I want to see, because it's really, 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 really scary when you think about. Let me get rid of this. Let's see. I went to college to learn how to build aircraft engines. The military can do, plus nuclear. Yeah. It's terrifying to imagine something just. And it's not like we have any notice. It's not like we have bunkers like they used to have. Like, once that hits, you essentially know it's over. Here's a test. Let me look at it first before I just play it for you guys. Marshall Islands, I didn't know that. This was
or
the first
hydrogen bombs
thermonuclear
use
test.
the energy of a primary fission explosion to ignite a hydrogen fusion reaction. The fusion releases even more energy, creating a blast many times more powerful than a basic fission weapon would. The thermonuclear device tested in Operation Mike weighed some 82 tons and took up the space of a small building to hold the cryogenic equipment that
They're
kept
not
its
that big
deuterium
now.
hydrogen fuel in liquid form. This series of photographs was made at an altitude of
real.
3,600 meters, or approximately 12,000 feet, at a distance of 80 kilometers or 50 miles from the detonation site. They demonstrate the immense power of this blast, equal to 10.4 million tons of TNT.
Like, this is
In its
not
first
a like, if
fraction
this
of a
happens,
second, the blast created a
There's no
fireball
turning
one
back.
quarter the size of Manhattan. Only 2 minutes after the detonation, the cloud reached a height of 12.2 kilometers, or 40,000 feet. At maximum, the cloud spread
insanity.
over 160 kilometers wide, or 100 miles, across the stratosphere and sent a blast column 40 kilometers, or 25 miles, above the detonation point.
if something like that happens, that's, I mean, I don't know. I just think we really casually say, oh, well, Putin's threatening nukes, like it's not a big deal. Our world changes as we know it. Everything changes. Hundreds of miles with each one of these, and we have enough to light up the entire world, actually. Whether you target them or not, Russia has enough to essentially clear this side of the world. We don't want this happening. And as we casually just say, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal, the weapons are way more precise now. The tactical nukes, they can say, oh, well, you know what? We just want to get rid of Indiana. And they know how to make it that precise to cover that mileage. Like, we don't want this to happen. It's not a joke. I don't like what Piers was saying. We keep crossing the red line and he hasn't done it yet. He's not going to do it. I don't want to play. That's not a gamble I'm ready to take. I don't even like betting on fantasy football. I'm damn sure not going to bet on nuclear war. And this man keeps saying, you guys better stop. You guys better stop. You guys, how many times do you guys think he's going to do this? This is Putin. 2 weeks ago? A week ago? As soon as we sorry, let me move this. That's really loud. I apologize. I didn't prep this video at all.
In a televised address Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow had launched a medium-range ballistic missile attack on a Ukrainian military facility in response to recent Ukrainian long-range strikes with Western weapons.
In combat conditions, one of the newest Russian mid-range missile systems was also tested, in this case with a ballistic missile and non-nuclear hypersonic equipment.
Kyiv said Russia used an intercontinental ballistic missile, a weapon designed for long-distance nuclear strikes and never before used in war, and that it hit the city of Dnipro. But
never before used in war until now.
3 U.S. officials said it was an intermediate-range ballistic missile that has a smaller range, and one official said it was notified by Russia about the strike ahead of time. There was no suggestion it was nuclear-armed. A regional governor in Ukraine said the attack damaged an industrial enterprise and set off fires. Artem Diomin is the acting director of a medical rehabilitation center.
That exact missile could have had a nuclear warhead on it and just laid out the entire city. We can't just casually talk about war like this. I guess that's the overall point.
Technical buildings were damaged in our compound. In the rehabilitation center building, around 50 windows were damaged. Thank God nobody was injured.
Regardless of its classification, the latest strike highlighted rapidly rising tensions in the past several days. It came after Ukraine fired U.S. and British missiles at targets inside Russia this week, after outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden gave it permission to do so, despite warnings by Moscow that it would see such action as a major escalation. President-elect Donald Trump has said he will end the war without saying how, and has criticized billions of dollars in aid for Ukraine under Biden. The warring sides believe Trump is likely to push for peace talks, not known to have been held since the war's earliest months, and are trying to attain strong positions before negotiations.
It's, again, I don't think it should be taken lightly. I'm fully against it. That's all I got for you guys. I appreciate everyone. Oliver Green, thank you. Henry, welcome back, sir. Appreciate you, sir. Mel Dub, Phoenix Rising, G Will, Free J, I saw you in here. Thank you for stopping by again. Who else was in here? Toby, thank you, sir. Appreciate you, man. I wanted to thank Toby for a Cash App. Last time I saw you in here, I appreciate you, sir. Definitely appreciate you. You don't have, nobody has to do that. Miss Akimi, of course, as always. Phoenix Rising, I think it said Phoenix. Hassan, thank you for stopping in. Appreciate all of you guys. I was actually I was kind of fiending to get back on. I was like, man, I want to go live. I want to, because there's so much going on. And I pick and choose what I want to talk about. But yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. John Thompson, of course. I already said G Will, but thank you guys all. I'm gonna still drop these links. I want to share. I want to share G Will's Black Business. If you guys need any of these things, you can holler at G Will. Copy. Thank you, Amber C. Thank you. This is G Will's Business. If you guys need anything on this list. So custom apparel, t-shirts, embroidery, sublimation, tumblers, coffee mugs. G Will can do all of that stuff, and he's good at it. I keep showing this one because that's got an example of what else he can do on a tumbler. If you need any of that, you can reach out to him. This is his IG. His company is STG Designs. So when you put this in and you see STG and it doesn't say G Will, it's still him. I promise you. These are some channels that I subscribe to. Real Talk Nikki. I gotta see where she's been. Whoops, undo. Miss Real Talk Nikki. Subscribe, like her videos, subscribe to her channel. Excellent content creator. She's different, but she's an excellent content creator. Mel, very educational. Let's see, great teacher and content creator as well, even though he doesn't know anything about basketball. Biz 101, if you want to learn about crypto. We're almost getting back to buy time, to buying. Hit him up. He can teach you about investing. This man needs no introduction, but I always share his info anyway, because again, these are people whose channels I frequent. So Kwame Brown needs no introduction, but the young lady, Miss Akimi, was just in here earlier. This is her channel, another one. Great content creator, great information shared always. This is the best YouTuber on the app. Another one who doesn't need an endorsement from me, but that's Dan D POV. If you want to hear about pop culture, if you want to hear about hip hop, that's the place to go. Excellent content creator. This one here, his channel is essentially going to be mostly be NFL, NCAA, college sports. Right now, football. Same thing with Taryn the Black. Same type of content. College sports, NFL. Patriotic Porker is a friend of mine from Chicago. Very smart. Very versed in politics. Patriotic Porker. Beautiful one. Biggest. Keep doing that. Sorry. She's the biggest supporter of this channel. One of the biggest supporters. Financially, she's the biggest supporter of the channel. I see there's different modes of support. People being here is amazing support. You guys come in here, no matter what time I log in, and I have the same people in here. I'm like, man, that's so cool to have people who are really supporting me. That's awesome. They're supporting the channel. And that's, you don't have to give to be a supporter. So I don't want to say biggest supporter, but her community wall is amazing. Great info at all. Let's see. Like, subscribe, share, as I keep saying. Try to help me get to 500, man. That'll be amazing. I genuinely never thought I'd get. When I was doing videos in the car, I wasn't even thinking about monetization. If you'd like to support the channel, all money goes right back into this channel. That is my Cash App. If you're on Rumble, check me out on Rumble also. I get a lot of views over there. It's really interesting. It's a different crowd, but it's still cool. If you're watching this on Rumble, this is my YouTube channel. Sub up over here. Again, I'm trying to get to 500. That would be amazing. That would be really cool. And then finally on X, on Twitter, you can see me arguing with fake conservatives. You can see me arguing with liberals. I've been arguing with Bryson. What's his name? He's a rapper. What is it? There's a rapper, Christian rapper named Bryson something. Anyway, I've been arguing with him because he's a hypocrite. Five in my lane. Well, hello. I'm just getting off. Thank you for stopping by, though. Appreciate you. With that said, let's see. I started out with Nas. I'm gonna leave with old school, more old school. Thank you guys very much again. Like, subscribe, share. Please share. Man, if I get 500, I'm telling you, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna leave on old school Lords of the Underground.